I knew for 6 months. 6 months I pretended everything was normal. Cooked dinner, smiled at family gatherings, waved at the neighbor, all while documenting everything. Every late night, every lie, every text message. Because I learned something important. Revenge isn't hot. It's cold, calculated, patient. And when I finally filed for divorce, I had enough evidence to bury them both. My husband called me crazy. The judge called me brilliant. Before we begin, comment where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. But let me take you back to the moment everything changed, the moment I stopped being a wife and became a detective. Catherine Martinez had been married to David for 10 years. 2 kids, ages 7 and 9, a house in the suburbs with a white picket fence. The American dream. She worked as a nurse at County General, night shifts mostly. David was a sales manager at a tech company making good money. They were comfortable, happy. Or so Catherine thought. Their neighbor, Sarah Mitchell, had moved in 5 years ago. Recently divorced, lonely, looking for friendship. Catherine had welcomed her, invited her to family dinners, let her babysit the kids. Sarah had cried on Catherine's shoulder about her failed marriage, about how her ex-husband had cheated, about how she'd never trust men again. Every word was a lie. It started with small things Catherine almost missed. David's phone face down on the table, a new cologne she hadn't bought him, late work meetings that seemed to multiply. "Big client," he'd say. "You know how it is." Catherine knew how it was. She was a nurse. She understood long hours, understood dedication to work. She didn't understand why that work smelled like Sarah's perfume. The night everything changed was a Tuesday in March. Catherine's shift got canceled. A power outage at the hospital sent everyone home early. She arrived home at 11 p.m. instead of 7 a.m. The house was dark except for one light. Their bedroom. Catherine's heart started pounding before her brain caught up. She knew. Somehow she knew. But knowing and seeing are different things. She walked up the stairs slowly, each step deliberate. The bedroom door was cracked open. She heard voices, David's laugh. Then another voice. Female. Familiar. Catherine pushed the door open. David, her husband of 10 years, the father of her children. And Sarah, their neighbor, their friend, the woman who'd been in their home hundreds of times. In Catherine's bed, under sheets Catherine had washed that morning. They saw her. Sarah screamed. David jumped up, grabbing for his clothes. "Kath, wait! This isn't—" Catherine held up her hand. Her voice was eerily calm. "Get dressed. Both of you. Get out of my house. Now!" "Catherine, please, let me explain," David started. "You have 5 minutes, then I'm calling the police for trespassing." She walked downstairs, sat on the couch, heard them scrambling above, whispered panic, footsteps on stairs. David came down first, half-dressed, face red. "Kath, I'm so sorry, it just happened. We didn't mean—" "How long?" Catherine's voice was ice. "What? How long has this been going on?" David looked at the floor. "A few months, maybe 6. 6 months," Catherine repeated. "You've been sleeping with our neighbor in our bed for 6 months. Sarah appeared at the stairs, wouldn't meet Catherine's eyes. "I'm sorry. We fell in love. We didn't plan." "Get out," Catherine said quietly. "Both of you. Get out of my house." They left. Catherine sat alone in her living room. Most women would cry, would call their mother, would break down. Catherine Martinez did something different. She pulled out her phone, made a list, and started planning. The next morning, Catherine did something unexpected. She called David. "Come home. We need to talk." David arrived within an hour, hopeful. "Kath, I'm so glad you called. We can work through this. It was a mistake. I'll end things with Sarah and I'm not leaving," Catherine said calmly. "What?" "This is my house too. My kids live here. I'm not going anywhere. And neither are you. Yet." David looked confused. "I don't understand. You want to be with Sarah? Fine, but we have kids, a house, finances. We need to handle this properly. Lawyers take time. I need time to figure out custody. Living arrangements, so for now, we stay. Separate bedrooms. We act normal in front of the kids until we figure this out. David's relief was visible. He thought she was being reasonable, mature. He had no idea what was coming, but here's what David didn't know. Catherine wasn't being mature. She was being strategic. That same day, Catherine installed security cameras. For safety, she told David. With everything going on, I want to make sure the house is secure. David agreed. Didn't question the one in the living room, the hallway, the kitchen. Didn't realize they had audio. Didn't think about what they might record. Catherine also did something else. She made an appointment with the best divorce lawyer in the state, not for a consultation, for a strategy session. I want to win, she told the lawyer, Margaret Chen. Not just win. I want him to lose everything. Margaret looked at her carefully. That's possible, but I need ammunition, evidence, documentation. I'll get it, Catherine promised. Just tell me what you need. Margaret gave her a list. Bank statements, credit card records, text messages, photos, witness statements, proof of adultery, proof of asset hiding, proof of anything that could be used in court. 6 months, Catherine said. Give me 6 months. For the next 6 months, Catherine Martinez lived a double life. In public, she was the devoted wife trying to work things out. At home, she was cold but civil. Cooked dinner, did laundry, smiled at family gatherings. And every night, while David slept, she gathered evidence. She accessed their shared computer, found years of deleted emails David thought were gone. They weren't. She recovered messages between David and Sarah dating back 2 years. Not 6 months, 2 years. They'd been planning this, discussing leaving their spouses. David had lied about how long it had been going on. Catherine documented everything, screenshots, timestamps, saved to a cloud drive David didn't know existed. She checked their bank accounts, found transfers David had hidden. $30,000 moved to a separate account over the past year. Money from their joint savings. Money that should have been for their kids' college. Money David was hiding for his new life with Sarah. Catherine didn't confront him, didn't question it, just documented every transaction, printed every statement, built her case. But Catherine did something else that was brilliant. She made friends with Sarah's ex-husband, Tom. Catherine called Tom one evening. You don't know me, but I'm Sarah's neighbor. My husband was having an affair with her. I know you went through a divorce with her. I'd like to talk to you about it. Tom met her at a coffee shop the next day. What do you want to know? Everything. What was she like during your divorce? What did she do? What evidence did you have? Tom spent 2 hours talking, told Catherine things she needed to hear. Sarah cheated on me too, with multiple men. I had proof, but my lawyer wasn't aggressive enough. I let her walk away with half of everything because I wanted it over. Don't make my mistake. I won't, Catherine promised. Tom also gave her something valuable. Sarah has a pattern. She targets married men, makes them feel special, slowly isolates them from their families, then moves in when they're vulnerable. Your husband isn't her first, probably won't be her last. Do you have proof of the others? Catherine asked. I have names, phone numbers, men she was messaging while married to me. If you need witnesses about her character, I can provide them. Catherine smiled. I absolutely need that. Over those 6 months, Catherine also documented David's behavior. The nights he claimed to work late, but the office parking lot was empty. She knew because she drove by, took photos, time-stamped them. The weekends he said he had client meetings, but his calendar said otherwise. She had access to his work calendar, screenshot everything. The times Sarah came to their house while Catherine was supposedly at work. Catherine came home early, took photos through the window. Her own house. Completely legal. She recorded every lie. Where were you tonight? Working late on the Morrison account. Lie. She'd called his office. He hadn't been there. Who were you texting? My brother. Lie. His brother was in her contact list, not that number. Every lie documented, dated, saved. She even got testimony from their children's school. Has anyone besides the parents been picking up the children? Yes, Sarah Mitchell has picked them up 17 times in the past 4 months. 17 times Sarah had picked up Catherine's children, took them to her house, played happy family with David, while Catherine worked to pay their bills. But here's the thing that shocked everyone. Catherine never showed anger, never confronted David, never let him know what she was doing. She played the role perfectly. The understanding wife, the woman trying to make it work. She even went to marriage counseling with him, sat through sessions where David talked about growing apart and finding himself. Catherine nodded, took notes, asked thoughtful questions. The therapist thought they were making progress. David thought Catherine was coming around, might even forgive him. He had no idea every session was being documented, that the therapist's notes would later be subpoenaed, that his own words would be used against him in court. Meanwhile, Sarah thought she was winning, thought Catherine was the pathetic wife who couldn't let go. Sarah got bold, started texting David openly, coming to the house more often. Catherine let her, documented every visit, every text, building her case brick by brick. She also did something else clever. She befriended other neighbors. "Have you noticed anything odd about David and Sarah?" she asked casually. Not accusing, just curious. "Now that you mention it," one neighbor said, "I've seen David's car at Sarah's house. Multiple times. Overnight." "Would you be willing to testify to that if needed?" Catherine asked sweetly. "Absolutely," the neighbor said. "What Sarah's doing is wrong. She's breaking up your family." 3 neighbors agreed to testify. 3 witnesses who'd seen David's car at Sarah's house overnight, while his children slept at home thinking their father was working. After 5 months, Catherine had something else, photos, not just of cars or empty parking lots, actual photos. She'd hired a private investigator, expensive but worth it. The investigator had gotten photos of David and Sarah together, at restaurants, at hotels, kissing, holding hands, walking into her house, walking out the next morning. The photos were dated, time-stamped, GPS located, undeniable evidence of adultery. Catherine kept every photo, organized them chronologically, built a timeline of betrayal that would be impossible to deny. She also found something else. David had been using their credit cards to buy Sarah gifts, jewelry, clothes, weekend trips, thousands of dollars of marital funds spent on his affair. Catherine printed every statement, highlighted every suspicious charge, cross-referenced them with social media posts. Sarah wearing the necklace David bought her, posted on Instagram. David didn't know Catherine had a fake Instagram account following Sarah. Saw every post, every brag, every evidence of their relationship. After 6 months, Catherine had built something impressive, a complete dossier of evidence, hundreds of pages, photos, text messages, bank statements, witness statements, GPS data, social media posts, calendar discrepancies, therapy notes, security camera footage, everything organized, indexed, presented like a legal case, because that's exactly what it was. And then, after 6 months of silent documentation, Catherine made her move. One morning, David woke up to find Catherine gone, the kids at her mother's house, and legal papers on the kitchen table, divorce papers, and a restraining order. David was being evicted from his own house, had 24 hours to remove his belongings. No contact with Catherine except through lawyers. He called her immediately. "What the hell, Kath? We were working on things. You said—" "I said a lot of things." Catherine's voice was cold. "I also documented a lot of things. See you in court, David." She hung up. David was confused, angry, called his brother, called friends. Everyone told him the same thing. Get a good lawyer. David hired a lawyer, not a great one, just a competent one. He thought the divorce would be straightforward, split assets, shared custody, move on with his life with Sarah. He had no idea what was waiting for him in that courtroom. The court date came 3 months later. David walked in confident, sat with his lawyer, saw Catherine across the room with her lawyer, Margaret Chen. Margaret had a reputation, known as the shark in legal circles. Never lost, played to win. David's lawyer looked worried. They brought Margaret Chen. "That's not a good sign." "It's just a divorce," David said. "How bad can it be?" The answer came quickly. Margaret opened with a statement that made the entire courtroom silent. Your Honor, this isn't a simple divorce. This is a case of adultery, financial misconduct, child endangerment, and fraud. My client has documented evidence of all of these, and we're prepared to present it. David's face went pale. Child endangerment? What? Margaret continued. Mr. Martinez has been conducting an extramarital affair with the neighbor, Sarah Mitchell, for over 2 years. Not 6 months as he initially claimed. 2 years. During this time, he exposed their children to his affair partner without their mother's knowledge or consent. He used marital funds, money meant for their children's education, to finance this affair. And he lied repeatedly under oath during counseling sessions and legal proceedings. The judge looked at David. Is this true? Some of it, David stammered. My client has evidence, Margaret said calmly. She pulled out a 3-inch binder, placed it on the table. Would you like to see it, Your Honor? For the next 2 hours, Margaret presented Catherine's case. Every photo, every text message, every bank statement, every witness testimony. David's lawyer tried to object, tried to fight, but every piece of evidence was legally obtained, every witness credible, every document verified. The security camera footage was particularly damaging, showed David bringing Sarah into the marital home, multiple times, while Catherine was at work saving lives as a nurse, while their children slept upstairs. The bank statements showed $47,000 in hidden transfers and affair-related expenses, money David had stolen from their joint accounts. Your Honor, Margaret said, Mr. Martinez didn't just betray his wife. He financially defrauded her, endangered their children, and lied to this court. The judge looked at David with disgust. Do you have anything to say? David's lawyer whispered to him. David shook his head. What could he say? The evidence was overwhelming. Catherine had documented everything, built a case that was impossible to deny or defend. The judge made his ruling, and it was devastating. In light of the evidence presented, I am awarding primary custody of both children to Mrs. Martinez. Mr. Martinez will have supervised visitation only, at his own expense. David's face crumbled. Your Honor, please. The judge held up his hand. I'm not finished. Due to Mr. Martinez's financial fraud and misuse of marital funds, I am awarding Mrs. Martinez 75% of all marital assets. This includes the house, both vehicles, the majority of retirement accounts, and compensation for the $47,000 he stole from the marriage. Gasps in the courtroom. 75% was almost unheard of. Usually, it was 50-50 unless there were extreme circumstances. Furthermore, the judge continued, Mr. Martinez will pay spousal support of $3,500 per month for the next 5 years and child support of $2,800 per month until both children reach age 18. David was shaking. His lawyer looked stunned, but the judge wasn't done. Additionally, I am ordering Mr. Martinez to pay all of Mrs. Martinez's legal fees, the cost of her private investigator, and the cost of the 6 months of documentation she was forced to compile due to his lies. That total is approximately $45,000. David stood up. I can't afford that. I'll be bankrupt. You should have thought of that before you betrayed your wife, the judge said coldly. You stole from your family to finance an affair. You lied under oath. You exposed your children to your affair partner without their mother's consent. These are the consequences of your choices. The judge looked at Catherine. Mrs. Martinez, I want to commend you. The documentation you provided was some of the most thorough I've seen in my career. Your patience and strategic approach were remarkable. Catherine nodded, face neutral. But inside, she was victorious. David tried to appeal. Hired a better lawyer with money he didn't have. The appeal was denied. The original ruling stood. David lost the house, lost most of his money, lost primary custody of his kids, lost everything. He and Sarah tried to make it work, rented a small apartment together. But relationships built on betrayal rarely survive reality. They fought constantly. About money, about his kids, about his ex-wife who'd outsmarted them both. They broke up after 8 months. Sarah moved away. Last Catherine heard, she was in another state, targeting another married man. David ended up in a one-bedroom apartment, saw his kids every other weekend, always supervised by a court-appointed monitor he paid $50 an hour for, paid Catherine $6,300 a month in support and spousal payments, worked overtime to afford it all. The life he'd envisioned with Sarah never materialized. Instead, he got the consequences of his choices. Catherine, meanwhile, thrived, kept the house she'd helped pay for, raised her kids in stability. Eventually, she started dating again, found someone honest, someone who treated her with respect, someone who understood that betrayal has consequences. She also wrote a blog about her experience, The Patient Revenge: How I Won My Divorce. It went viral. Millions of women read it, thanked her, said she inspired them to document their own situations, to be strategic instead of reactive. 2 years after the divorce, Catherine ran into David at their son's soccer game. He looked older, tired, worn down by the life he'd created. "How are you?" he asked stiffly. "I'm excellent," Catherine said honestly. "The kids are thriving. We're happy." David nodded. "I made a mistake. A huge mistake. I'm sorry." "You did," Catherine agreed. "And you paid for it. That's how consequences work." She walked away. David watched her go. The woman he'd betrayed. The woman who'd quietly, methodically destroyed him in court. The woman who proved that revenge doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be thorough. 5 years later, Catherine's kids were teenagers, doing well in school, adjusted to the divorce. They saw their father occasionally, had forgiven him somewhat, but they knew what he'd done, knew who'd fought for them, knew which parent had protected them while the other had been selfish. Catherine never regretted her approach, never wished she'd handled it differently. "People ask me if I was cold," she told a journalist years later. "If I was manipulative, I was strategic. There's a difference." "What would you say to other women in your situation?" the journalist asked. Catherine smiled. "Don't get angry. Get evidence. Don't react. Plan. Don't fight." When the article went viral, Catherine became a symbol of the silent revenge, the patient victory, the woman who'd turned betrayal into a masterclass in consequence. And somewhere in a small apartment, paying bills he could barely afford, David Martinez understood exactly what that meant. The judge had called her brilliant. David called her terrifying. But Catherine called herself something simpler, a woman who refused to be a victim, who chose strategy over tears, who proved that sometimes the best revenge is cold, calculated, and completely legal. The kind of revenge that doesn't just win. It teaches a lesson, and David Martinez had learned his, the hard way. What did you think of Catherine's strategic revenge? Comment below. Rate this story 0 to 10. Subscribe for more powerful stories of justice and brilliant planning.